Haribol. Okay. Welcome. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Not on the ground. Not on the ground. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mishpat Paramahansa Buddhika Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mishnupad Paramahansa Buddhika Acharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the sum of the devotees. All glory to the sum of the devotees. All glory to the sum of the devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Bhakti Life. Here, put the book and both books up here. This is for you. That's for you. Yeah, we can put one of the other Gitas on here if you want. So just to, that's it. Perfect. There you go. So I don't want to make your life more difficult, but this is what it means. Okay, so certainly we don't want to put the holy words or pictures or your beads actually on the floor. Okay. But we also don't want to put it on the place where we sit. That's like, if we don't have any other alternative, we can do that. But not the one you're sitting on, but another one. But better to keep it on something like this, okay, in the future. Okay. Tell them these things. He's been around for 2 weeks already. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
On this 23rd day of August 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 329, near the top. And we are in chapter 7, entitled Knowledge of the Absolute Truth. And this is text number 20. Now, obviously, we're not faulting your child, because he's faultless. But if he, it's rare that a child can sit for very long without being restless, so we might have to take him out if he acts up. Okay. Did I do Om Namo? I didn't do Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes. I did that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to get track. All right, text 20. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Bhujendra. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Go ahead. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Dr. Roy. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Your next life. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tam Tam Nimamastaya. That was a hard one. Go ahead, Krishnangana. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tam Tam Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Kamaistaista Jnana Papadyante Devata Tang Tang Nimamastaya Prakritya Niyataksvaya. Okay, before we go on, is it Krishnangana? Yes. Krishnangana Mata, sorry. Now, yesterday, you were here for the morning class with Mukunda Dutt. Okay. So, he's actually trained in Sanskrit, and I have a feeling that you also took Sanskrit, right? Okay, now, because I learned something there and I want to confirm it with you, and I think it's correct. So at the end of each line here, we have two basic lines, 4 padas, right? So then at the end of the first line, we have devata with an visarga. Now, I was always under the impression, and I just learned on my own, devataha, but it should be devataha. There should be long A, right? Devataha, and if this was a short A, it would be devataha. See, it's confirmed. So now from now on, we'll do that. Remember that, Marcy, because you like to pronounce very carefully. Okay, synonyms. Kamai, by desires, tai, various, rita, deprived of, jnanaha, knowledge, prapadyante, surrender, anya, to other, devataha, demigods, tum, corresponding, niyamam, regulations, asthaya, following, prakritya, by nature, niyataha, controlled, svaya, by their own. Translation. Those, Lord Krishna said, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires, surrendered unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Purport. Those who are freed from all material contaminations surrender unto the Supreme Lord and engage in His devotional service. As long as the material contamination is not completely washed off, they are by nature non-devotees. But even those who have material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by external nature. Because of approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all material lust. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. As stated in Bhagavatam 2.3.10, akamak sarvakamo va, you can chant. Mokshakama hudadadihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham padam. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Now he's talking about the present verse. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods. Following the rules and regulations of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided. Because in Vedic literature, there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. For example, a diseased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes, demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 5.142, it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna ar sababhritya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is master, and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna now is giving us the description of those who are not in knowledge. Remember in the previous verse he said in 19, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavama padyate, that after those who are really in knowledge, they may cultivate this knowledge through many births. Bahunam janmanam. At the end of that, if they're really in knowledge, they surrender to me. Understanding that I, Vasudeva, am everything. And we explained yesterday how he's everything. Because everything that we experience, or anything that we don't experience, is simply an expansion of Krishna's energies or an expansion of Krishna himself. And it's important to understand the distinction. For instance, in every one of our hearts, we have, the Lord is there as the super soul. In the 13th chapter, Krishna says, Chaitra gim chapi mameti sarva chaitreshu bharata. He's talking about the Chaitra gya. Chaitra means a field or body. You can get a book. There's so many books. Yeah, thanks. So Chaitra is the field of activity, which is, this is the body. We're kind of working within this body. And within the body is the knower, gya. Notice the word jnana. Jnana is knowledge, gya is knower. So we're the knower of the body. When you understand the basic philosophy that we're not the body, that the body is matter and we're spirit. But within the body, Krishna says, there's another knower, and that's me. In other words, there's two knowers in every body. The super soul, who's an expansion of Krishna, and the individual soul, which is really us. So, therefore, God is all-pervasive as the Paramatma. And not only in every heart, but in every atom also. So where is there not either Krishna or his energies? Point out something to me. Everything in our experience and beyond our experience is Krishna. So that's what it means, Vasudevi Sarvamiti, that everything is Vasudev. So if one is going to worship, if one is going to try to practice yoga and link himself up to the absolute truth, what other alternative is there except to Vasudeva or Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita? There is no other. But, now, the present verse says, but those whose knowledge, this whole chapter is all about knowledge. He starts out with, what is it? Maya avesha mano memam nitya yukta upasate. No. I know this verse. Text 1. Maya asakta manapata yogam yun asankshayam yata gyasati tachinu. Understand it. Gyasati means you should know. And then the next verse says, jnanam, knowledge. They have savigyanam, knowledge and realized knowledge. We should understand the difference between gyan and vigyan. Knowledge is, oh, did you hear? Honey is so sweet. This kind of honey that comes from these special flowers. And here's this bottle. Oh, I've tasted it. It's like nothing else in the world. That's gyan. Vigyan is, you open the jar and I give you a nice tablespoon full of it and you say, oh, you're right. That's vigyan. See? Knowledge is knowing about something, which is important, and vigyan is the actual realized knowledge. So Krishna says, now listen to this chapter, because you'll get jnana and vigyan about me. This is, so the whole chapter is about knowledge. And then he culminates in this 19, we won't go into review right now. Those who are really in knowledge may take some births, may take many births, but then at the end, if they're successful, they'll surrender unto me. But then there are others, you see. Kamais taistai rita jnana. Rita jnana means whose knowledge is stolen. By what? Lust. It's stolen by material desire. If your mind is too much on trying to enjoy Krishna's energy, then you can completely forget about that it is Krishna's energy. And you think, this whole world is for me. Right? And maybe my little world that I have, but whatever it is, this part is for my enjoyment, and I'm going to exploit it, try to get more. That's what he's talking about here. And so in the Vedic culture, if someone is still within, respects the Vedas, then will be attracted to the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. It's not the part that teaches bhakti, but it's the part that teaches devotion to these various gods. Chandra, moon god, Surya, sun god, Indra, Indraloka, Kali worshipper. There's millions, there must be hundreds of millions in India. Yeah. And what's the purpose? Is it to somehow get blessings to enjoy in this world. And so therefore he says, they're controlled by their own natures, whatever mode of nature they're in. When they've been heard, but they don't want to worship Krishna. Oftentimes they know Krishna will take it all away. Krishna is known as Hari. Hare is also evocative to Hari. We teach as Hara, and that's certainly bona fide. But it's also Hari. If you worship Krishna, he'll take it all away. Well, in our ignorance, we don't want him to take it all away. So we'll say, okay, we'll maybe chant a little Hare Krishna, but really we're going to, make our offering unto, Devi, the Kali. She can give us so many boons in this way. But that's foolishness. You see, they follow this, and then he'll explain why it's foolish in the next few verses. Now, there's a parallel passage in the 9th chapter. In both the 7th chapter and the 9th chapter, Krishna proves that you shouldn't worship any demigods. And we'll discuss that maybe in a little while. But let's go through this purport now. So first Prabhupada describes those who are free from material contamination. They surrender to the Lord, engage in most. That's the previous verse. As long as the material contamination is completely washed off, they're by nature non-devotees. Now, there's a spectrum. Although it's said that there's two kinds of persons in this world. There's the demons and the devotees. And that's certainly true. Krishna says that in the 16th chapter. But the point is that there are often a vast number of people in between who are not yet devotees, but they're curious, they're innocent, they're receptive. They're receptive to the message, and they could become purified and become devotees. The basic understanding is that every living entity is a devotee, originally. But in the material world, everyone has various thicknesses of covering that are covering that real nature. And so it's pervertedly reflected in this world. We're devotees, but not devotees of Krishna. We're devotees of, in the worst sense, mammon. Right? We worship mammon. You know the Bible. We worship money. We worship God in the form of this external energy. The scientists who may pay lip service to God or don't believe in God at all, but they're really into investigating the material world, you know, AI. You know what AI is? Artificial intelligence, right? This is the new Shangri-La or something, you know. We're going to have robots doing everything. You know. And what happens to all the people who get thrown out of work? Well, that's just, you know, you have to find another job. It's demonic. This is called demonic. The more that people, we have a big demon, many of you have heard this name, you maybe have heard of, don't know what it means, Hiranyakashipu. You've ever heard of it? Okay, that's all right, you're only here a couple of days. So, Hiranyakashipu, he's famous for having this wonderful son devotee who was named Prahlad. But he was a big demon, and he became a powerful demon by practicing severe austerities. But I'm not going to go into the whole story of Hiranyakashipu, but he was so powerful for some time, he took over the whole universe. Yes, he tried to kill the sun. He remembers. He's got a good brain. And his son was a great devotee. He was a great demon who don't like devotees. They don't want anyone else worshipped but them. And he was insisting there's a God way beyond you, more powerful. He didn't want to hear that. But the thing is, his name is important. The names are important too. Hiranya and Kashipu together. Hiranya is gold or money, and Kashipu is soft bedding, and the bed companion. You see, so sensuality and wealth are the gods for the demons. They don't recognize any other god. I've been listening to Prabhupada's Gita classes. There's so many wonderful classes recorded. I can provide them to you. They're open, free now. And the 16th chapter. 16th chapter is called the Divine and Demonic. Krishna spends 3 or 4 verses describing the divine qualities, and the rest of the chapter describing the demonic qualities. And one of the first verses describing is asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anisharam aparasparasambhutam kimanyat kama hoitukam. Here the word kama comes in. Here, first word of this verse, kama. And he's saying, there's no truth. There's no ultimate truth. Asatyam. Nothing rests on a truth. Everything is in flux. Everything is relative. Apratishtam. There's no foundation of this world. And mainly, Jagadahu and Ishwaram. They declare, it's not just that they're doubtful, agnostic, but they know. They know there's no God. This is the thing. And they declare it. You know, this is the open atheists. We have them. They go on TV. Aparaspara sambhutam. How did everything come about? Just by a chance combination of atoms. Isn't it? Yeah, over billions and billions of years, gradually the little paramecia, evolved up to us. Right? That's the whole idea. And it goes on like that. And then he describes how such demons, they're bound by thousands, asha, pasha, ashata, buddha, thousands and thousands of material desires. There's no end to them. And they think that the ultimate goal of life is to enjoy up to the end of life. And they have a mantra. Just like we have our mantra, Hare Krishna. Please, Hare Krishna, Hare, please engage me in your service. They would never chant that with that mood. Their mantra is, Ishvaroham maham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. I am the master. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. Who's going to challenge me? My name is... No, I'm not going to give the name. I'm not going to give the name of our president. He shall not remain unnamed. So that's what's going on here. So here, the knowledge is taken away by the material desire. That's the third chapter. Avartam Ganametino Gyananatavairara, that the material, your real enemy in this world is inside here. It's the material desire. Kama esha, krodha esha. And when your material desires, which are insatiable ultimately, are not satisfied, what happens? You become angry, you know? And if you can't do anything with that anger, it's, you know, then you become depressed. It's turned inside. And you try to mitigate it with drugs, alcohol, or something, yeah. This is a sad state of many people in the world. So, but the key is the next verse, Avitam Ganametina, that this knowledge, the lust covers your knowledge to various degrees. And so, in order to come out of this syndrome of ignorance, one needs to control one's the senses, direct them to Krishna, and purify the heart of this karma. It's a process. It may take more than one birth, but it's the only way to get out of ignorance and ultimately to get out of the bondage of birth and death. So here he's describing those who worship other devas besides me. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada quotes this very cogent verse from the Bhagavatam. Our other book is this multi-volume work called Srimad Bhagavad Purana Bhagavatam. And right in the second chapter, before this verse he quotes 2.3.10, there's several verses describing different gods you can worship to get different material things. If you want a beautiful wife, you worship Uma. If you want a powerful body, you worship Indra. If you want health, you worship Surya. I used to worship Surya. Even in the movement, I used to do Surya Namaskar. Everyone knows it did a little yoga. It's good for your health. But I'm not going to make it my life. That's not all I'm after, is good health. That's it. Ultimately, the body itself is a disease of the soul. So to try to concentrate on making the body healthful, you can go overboard, right? From morning to night, all you're thinking about, you know, yeah, I'm eating clean, you know, I'm exercising. I read today about, maybe some of you know, the extreme exercises is too much, and you get the muscles die, and you can die, and then the kidneys can fail and everything. It's a disease. Too much exercise, too soon. In other words, body consciousness. This is the problem. So now, so this verse, after all of these verses, there's 10, 12, 20 of them. All different gods and goddesses you can worship for this and that. It's something like I don't want to call it a laundry list, but you understand. You know, there's a menu there. But then he says, but akama sarvakamo va. If you're intelligent, udada di. This is the point. Bahunam jamanamante. Previous is if you really understand knowledge, then you'll surrender unto me. So here is the rare soul. This chapter begins in the third verse. Manushyanam sahasreshu kastya jadati siddhye yatatam abhisiddhanam kastyanam vedi tatpada. That of many thousands and thousands of human beings, one will even understand the need to strive for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, or some measure of perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So it's rare. That's why there's only a dozen of us here, or less, rather than, you know, 3, 4, 6 million people outside in the street doing whatever they're doing besides Krishna. So we're fortunate. We should cultivate the knowledge. So here he says, udada di. Those who are really intelligent, whose intelligence is expanded, they will, whether they have no material desires, in other words, they're already have no material desire, but they're not devotees yet, or they're full of all desires, or the other alternative, they want moksha, they want mukti. If they're really intelligent, in any case, they will render intense devotional service, not superficial. They'll, with strong concentration and faith, tivrena bhakti yogena, unto whom, punchline, purusham param, the supreme person, Krishna, exclusively. Exclusively. But you don't want to divert your attention to any of the gods. Everything, in the 9th chapter I mentioned, it describes, Krishna says, I always forget how this verse, but those who worship me indirectly, they'll worship the gods trying to go to the heavenly planets, and they may go to Indraloka and enjoy godly delights there for a long time. Thousands and thousands of years. But then he says, Tetam bhukva svargalokam. Svarga is heaven. Svargalokam vishalam. Vishalam is vast, more than we could imagine here. Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. This is like the Krishna punctures the balloon. But when you're punya, you see, you kind of accumulate. It's like a credit card. You know, you're performing austerities. Now you have an idea. I want to go to Hawaii. I've never been there. And I hear it's an idyllic place. The beaches, oh my goodness. The waves, the curves, you know, whatever. So, and so I and my family are going to take a vacation to Hawaii. But I don't have enough money. You know, it takes thousands of dollars to get the airfare, the hotel, everything. So we're going to work for a few years and really scrape and save, and then we'll go. And so we work and we save and we wake. We have pictures, we have videos, we have our friends who came back for Hawaii. We really want to go, you know. So we finally got enough to go. And then after several years of austerity, right, we were able to buy our tickets and reserve the hotels, and we got it all planned. We go there and we enjoy, you know, and forget everything. We're there for weeks. The little kids are swimming in the ocean, in the pool. Oh, God. But then, alas, the calendar, the ruthless time, it's time to go back. We've spent all our money. Time is up. Back to the, you know, austerity of work a day like that, right? That's exactly what it's like. Instead of the heavenly planets, people go to Disneyland, they go to Hawaii, whatever. So Krishna says, Tetam bhuktva. Now if you really go to heaven, Swargalokam vishalam, you enjoy godly delights. Vishala means endless. But then Chine punya martya lokam vishanti. When your punya, your credit, good credit is gone, martya lokam vishanti, you come back, he doesn't say to earth, you come back to the world of death. Martya lokam vishanti. And therefore, evam tridam anupapana gadakanam kama kama labante. That by this means, you simply go and come. Prabhupada describes, he didn't know the word, but he learned from his disciples, the Ferris wheel. Up and then down. We see, they have one in the park here, right? You can see it sometimes. Up and down. You're not really going anywhere. You think you're going, but then you have to come down. And so the next verse, Krishna says, relative to this Kama verse, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana parupasate tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam bahamyaham. But aside from the demigod worshippers, those who worship me with undeviating mind, ananya, this word came in, my ananyena bhaktena, in our boarding class. Ananya means without deviation. We have to come to the point of full concentration. Ananyas chintayanto mam, with undeviating intelligence. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana payupasate, they worship me, then what do? I'm not a dead stone. Krishna. For those who are thus linked to me in this way, I carry what they need and preserve what they have. Now these two words, yoga and kshema, are important for us. Yoga means so many things. In this context, it means those things you need to live. You need certain things. You need food, water, shelter, air, all these different things, basic things. And kshema. Kshema means your security and welfare. If you got all these things, but there's no security, the terrorists are coming down the street, then, you know, you got nothing, right? A lot of fear. So Krishna says, I preserve what they have, I provide what they need. He says, I personally carry it. Now, he's going to provide what we need. He doesn't say according to our wildest desires, because he's going to give us what we need for our own benefit, which is basic needs, so that we can have time and attention to practice bhakti, which is what it's all about. But he's not going to leave us bereft. And therefore he's saying, don't worry about it. You worship these gods for necessities or more than necessities, but you're wasting your time, you're diverting your energy. This is what it can. So that's what this is all about. These few verses are describing the foolishness, and he uses that word at the end, antavattu palamtation, ulpamadasam, not very intelligent. He'll use that in a few verses. So he describes in these verses, very illustrative, the deviation of demigod worship. So those who are intelligent worship the Supreme Person solely. and ultimately get the greatest benefit. And then Prabhupada quotes this verse from CC, Ekale Ishvara Krishna ar sababhritya. There's one Ishvara, ultimately, Krishna. Ekale means one. And all others are his servants. And that even includes other manifestations of God. I've been reading the Chaitanya Bhagavad, which is just it's an unbelievable book. And, Advaita Acharya, who's after all, he's an incarnation of Mahavishnu. He's also in the Vishnu Tattva, I told you about that. He's a man. And so is Nityananda. But they are like mad about serving Lord Chaitanya. Because, Advaita doesn't want to be served. He's elderly. And Lord Chaitanya was respecting him as a great sage. So Advaita said, this is not good. So he started preaching Mayavad philosophy so that Lord Chaitanya would chastise him. And he came and actually beat him up a little bit. And Advaita was ecstatic. This past. And so, and not only that, but God himself wants to serve God, because that's where all the nectar is. And so he comes as Lord Chaitanya in the mood of the servant. So that's where it's at, is being a servant of Krishna. That's where all the nectar is. Even Krishna knows that. All right, let's go on. Unless there's any questions. Yes.
This verse, when you're showing the Kirtana, one devotee was saying they didn't know whether it was like only mundane piety or whether...
No. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained there's two different kinds of piety. Bhogon Mukhi Sukriti and Bhaktyun Mukhi Sukriti. I somehow remember those technical terms. So Bhogon Mukhi Sukriti is that material pious activity which results in bhoga, material enjoyment. Bhaktyun Mukhi Sukriti is pious activity which is really bhakti piety. You see, and that word is used in one of Prabhupada's favorite verses. He would quote, Itam satam brahma sukam bhutya dasam gatanam padadayavatena mayashitanam natadadakenam sakam bhajagju krita punya punja. Punja means a lot, means a big mass. And his punja, he's talking about his friends. Krishna's playing with his friends in Vrindavan. So he's saying that that same entity who the Brahmavadis worship as the Brahman, who the regular devotees worship as the Supreme Lord, and who the fools think is just an ordinary human being, was playing with these boys because they had accumulated heaps of piety. Punja, Bhakti-mukhi piety, obviously not material piety. So that word punya can mean both bhakti piety as well as... Okay, let's go on. Text 21. Yo yam yam tanum bhakta shadhaya chitam ichchati tasya tasya chalang shadham dhameva vidadhamyaham. Okay. Are you on the right page? Okay, very good. So Krishna says, I am in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as the Supersoul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as the Supersoul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. This is the Karma Kanda section I mentioned. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such demigod. I mentioned that from the second canto. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma. Oh, I thought Usha. Okay, Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord, or the Supersoul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature it is stated, quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Supersoul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Important. So this very key concept here of minute independence. We are spirit, and God is Supreme Spirit. So we are Anu, means infinitesimal, and God is infinite, Vibhu, infinite, thank you. So, therefore we have his qualities in minute degree. And one of those qualities he has is complete independence. He can, whatever he wants to do, he can do, you see. Whatever, but we can't. We have some little bit of independence. But we do have some independence. Now in the human form, we have more than the animals. The animals, especially when you go down the animal, they don't have any independence. They're really working completely on instinct, what we call instinct. It's programmed in that they'll be able to know how to get their food, how to defend somehow, and survive. But everything is very constricted. The same living entity, intelligence, becomes very, very constricted. Human form is different because of its higher intelligence. We also have our, the fish have their rudimentary hands, and they have their eyes, and they can hear often better than we can, But with our senses, controlled by the superior intelligence, we can actually use the body to get out of the body and achieve perfection. Most people don't, though. They just work according to animal propensities. But here Krishna is saying that yo-yo yam-yam means whatever and however you want to worship, then I'll make that faith strong for you. You want to worship some tree? Then fine. There'll be generations of tree worshippers, senior, knowledgeable people about different ways of worshiping that tree. A whole culture. And there may be something that you think is the result of worshiping a tree, and this will increase your faith, So it'll go on and on. Shraddha, I make the faith strong. This is why there are so many faiths, It's all based on various levels of ignorance. Achalam, I make it achalam, means steady. Shraddha. Shraddha, everything works on shraddha, faith. But I give it. It's coming from me from within the heart. But you see, now why does, then the question arises, Prabhupada says, well, why would Krishna let us do that? Because we have to have this measure of independence, otherwise there's no meaning to love. Love has to be given freely. Prabhupada once said very dramatically, Krishna does not want us to love him at the end of a revolver, with a revolver pointed at us. That's not love. That's slavery. It's got to be voluntary. And so he takes the risk of expanding himself into unlimited living beings. Eko bahusyam. It's right in the Vedas. That one becomes many, right? Now why? For rasa. Raso vaisaha. Because he wants to enjoy loving relationships, but it has to be freely given. This is why Krishna, in his highest form, he covers all his majesty. And he's just this so super enchanting, sweet boy who attracts all the residents of Vrindavan. He's covering all their majesty. Sometimes he even appears as a little baby. So that, you know, that there'll be some fortunate living entities. You know, ideally Mother Yashoda is not really a living entity, but she's the ideal. But then there's so many others in that rasa who can love Krishna as a little child. Just like every little child, you know, she immediately draws in this world. You know, any normal human being will have some affection and care, you know. So you can imagine, you know, how much love Krishna can draw like that. You don't have to imagine. You can read it in Krishna book. You can read it in 10th Canto. Delightful. We see this is what this is all about. He's a young boy, but he lifts the hill. You know, so the whole rasa is, well, okay, he's a young boy, but then he does these extraordinary things, you know. So, but all of that is freely given. It's a result of freely worshiping him and loving him, and that has no meaning if there's no independence. But independence means we can misuse it, and we have. That's why we're here. But now we're trying to use it properly. That's why we're sitting here. We're training ourselves to direct the affection and the care and the worship and everything toward Krishna. And then that'll be our perfection. And the more we do, the more he responds by revealing himself to us in every step of life. But here Krishna's speaking about those who want to worship other gods. Okay, you know, that's your freedom. Now he'll explain why that's foolish, and hopefully we won't do it. But we're still free to do it. And so if you do it, and the result will be birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. Again, you come down, you see. So here's the alternative. This is the great value of the Shastra. It gives you the alternative. Most people have no idea. But here's the alternative. You know, you want to worship matter, you know, that's also a god in a way. You know, it's lower. It's out of the realm of Vedic culture. Then there'll be a lot more suffering right away. You know. But if you want to worship gods, there's part of the Vedas you can do that. You know, it's not gross animal life. You're within the Vedic culture, and you go to heaven. But ultimately, you come back down again, and you're not really going anywhere. You know, and then unfortunately, you come back as Kali Yuga, and then you can easily get bewildered and forget all about the gods and really suffer. So it's all of this alternatives Krishna's giving us here. All right, it's 8 o'clock. We want to leave enough time. And we're going to, on Monday, we'll complete this little lesson on why we shouldn't worship the Devas and simply worship Krishna. This whole chapter is the first of the middle 6 chapters, which Prabhupada explained is really the essence of the Gita. And it's so important that there's a few chapters I know where this is one of them. Every verse, really, and the series of verses is very instructive. Okay, I'm sorry we didn't leave much time for discussion. We'll read a little bit of Krishna book. Now, anyone remember where we are? Yeah. The boys are hungry. The wives of the Brahmins. Yes, the wives of the Brahmins. I'm sorry? Yes. And now they've got. They went to the Brahmins. They wouldn't even talk to them. Wouldn't give me a simple yes or no. You know, you can imagine these Brahmins saying the mantras, pouring the ghee, you know, and all those things. Who are these kids? Forget it. You know, even though they mention it's Krishna and Balaram, you know, and later on they condemn themselves for it. All right, let's go. Okay. Okay, this is different. So the bookmarks, Chankachuda. All right, this is. Not Shankachu. What am I saying? The Brahmin's wives. Here we go. All right, I'm sorry here. I'm sorry, I lost my place. I've got this big type here for easy reading. Okay, so now that they've gone out with the boys, and then they see Krishna and Balaram. Now these are Brahman's wives. I get that they may not have seen him before, but they heard about him, and they loved him dearly from just hearing. This is the same Rukmini had the same thing. Within that forest, they went out a little ways, and there they saw Krishna and Balaram. The Brahman's wives who had packed up quickly. Remember, they had tiffins and whatever pots, you know, put all it, and they were anxious and they ran out. Whereas, anyway, big contrast with their poor husbands. Within that forest, they saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in tending the cows along with their very affectionate boyfriends. The Brahmins' wives saw Krishna with a blackish complexion, wearing a garment that glittered like gold. He wore a nice garland of forest flowers and a peacock feather on his head. He was also painted with minerals found in Vrindavan, and he looked exactly like a dancing actor on a theatrical stage. They saw him resting one hand on the shoulder of his friend, and in the other hand he was twirling a lotus flower. In other words, completely at ease. His ears were decorated with lilies, he wore marks of tilak, and he was smiling charmingly. With their very eyes, the wives of the Brahmins saw the Supreme Lord, of whom they had heard so much, who was so dear to them, and in whom their minds were always absorbed. They're great yogis, actually. Now they saw him eye to eye, face to face, and Krishna entered within their hearts through their eyes. Within themselves, they began to embrace Krishna to their heart's content, and their distress of separation was mitigated immediately. They were just like great sages who, by their advancement of knowledge, merge into the existence of the Supreme. As the Supersoul living in everyone's heart, Krishna could understand their minds. They had come to him despite all the protests of their relatives, fathers, husbands, and brothers, and despite all the duties of household affairs. Remind you of anyone else? The gopis. They came just to see him, who was their life and soul. They were exactly following Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupational and religious duties. Sarvadharma parijajya. He therefore began to speak to them, smiling very magnificently. It should be noted in this connection that when Krishna entered into the wives' hearts, and when they embraced him and felt the transcendental bliss of being merged with him, the Supreme Lord Krishna did not lose his identity, nor did the individual wives lose theirs. So there's not really merging, their consciousness merged. The individuality of both the Lord and the wives remained, yet they felt oneness in existence. When a lover submits to his lover without any pinch of personal consideration, that is called oneness. Lord Chaitanya has taught us this feeling of oneness in his Shikshastika. Krishna may act freely, doing whatever he likes, but the devotee should always be in oneness or in agreement with his desires. And on that note, I'm going to give you my little poem. Ashlishiva paradhatang panashtamam adarshanan marmahatang karotava yatatata babadadata lambato matprananatas tuseva napada. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me, or my most ardent hopes defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a reckless libertine and not a saint. So let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. Hare Krishna. That oneness was exhibited by the wives of the Brahmins in their love for Krishna. Krishna welcomed them with the following words. Now, these words, he spoke the same words to the gopis when they came out. Basically, okay, now you've come out, you've seen me, you've seen the forest, now you can go back. After all, your husbands are... And the Brahmins' wives answered him in exactly the same words in the Sanskrit. I've noticed this when I worked on it. I forget the Sanskrit. Maivam vibho. Don't speak in this way, my lord. It's very cruel. The difference is the gopis would not go back, but the Brahmins' wives did. They're not quite on the level of the gopis. Krishna welcomed them with the words, "My dear wives of the Brahmins, you are all very fortunate and are welcome here." My kind of official, you know. Please let me know what I can do for you. You're coming here to see me, neglecting all the restrictions and hindrances of relatives, fathers, brothers, and husbands is completely befitting. One who does this actually knows his self-interest, because rendering transcendental loving service unto me without motive or restriction is actually auspicious for the living entities. Lord Krishna here confirms that the conditioned soul can reach the highest perfectional stage by surrendering to him. One must give up all other responsibilities. This complete surrender unto the Lord is the most auspicious path for the conditioned soul, because the Lord is the supreme objective of love. Everyone is loving his self according to the advancement of his knowledge. Ultimately, when a person comes to understand that his self is the spirit soul, and that the spirit soul is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he recognizes the Lord as the ultimate goal of love and then surrenders unto him. This surrender is considered auspicious for the conditioned soul. Our life, our property, our home, wife, children, house, country, society, and all other paraphernalia, which are very dear to us, are nothing but expansions of the Supreme Lord. He is the central object of love because he gives us all bliss, expanding himself in so many ways according to our different situations, namely bodily, mental, or spiritual. And that's just what we read yesterday. Bahunam Jamanamante. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna is everything, and therefore you should surrender unto him. But it may take many, many births. But if we're lucky, we can do it in this birth. We don't have to postpone. Okay. It's 8:10. We have to adjourn. But we'll pick this up on Monday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's like a cliffhanger. What's going to happen next? So done. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but in every Janmashtami, you know, we actually try to get as many donations as possible for the rest of the year. We're dependent, and this year was the best year yet. Yes, so we can keep the doors open for another year. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashachari Sakarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Bol, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Bol. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha. Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Dravida Prabhu Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti ISKCON Bhagavad founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Thank you. Sri Radha, Krishna Gopinath, Shamkan Radhakulam, Jiganomadan ki jai. Vrindavan ki jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga ki jai. Yamuna ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Amaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glory to the Assembly Lord. Hare Krishna. All glory to the Assembly Lord. Hare Krishna. All glory to the Assembly Lord. Hare Krishna. All glory to Shri Guru and all glory to Shri Guru. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Radha Radha Dayine Hiranyakashipo Raksha Ashilatankana Kalaye Vito Nishinga Parito Nishinga Yato Yamitato Nisingha Bahi Nisingo Riddhaye Nisingo Nisingamading Sharanang Prapaje Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Darita Hiranyakashipu Tanum Bringa Kesava Krita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tapakara Kamalavare Kamanta Shinga Andarita Nakashipu Tanum Bringa Devavita Narari Rupa Tavakara Kamalavare Nakamadutta Shringa Nandarita Hiranyakashipu Tanum Bringa Keshavadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Amamita Singh Gita Narari Rupa Jai Keshavandrita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavandrita Jai Singh Hare Singh Hare Jai Singh Hare Jai Singh Hare Jai Singh Hare Singh Hare Jai Singh Hare Jai Singh Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Thank you. have some milk? Please, everybody, take a little something. Come on. We have a special made from Santosh Manaji. For, yes, this is an Indian enchilada. Unfortunately, it wasn't too that. Well, I have a biscuit from Bhagavad. This is like a really formidable vegetable. How about a cookie? No cookies? A little pencil. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay? Sure? Tell me when